Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Pertwee.
I'm the comic relief doctor.
You've got that. You don't need to have one of them on to make that extraordinary.
No.
Your voices are brilliant.
No. That's it. Yes, Irishmen find it very difficult to do that one. Yes.
I must tell you, this morning I was on my way to rehearsals on my scooter bike on the way up to rehearsals, and I passed a fella wearing one of these noses and a comic relief cap, giving joy and pleasure and love to everybody. And the taxi cut him up. And he said, "Where do you think you're going, you bleeding git?"
Oh, so much in the spirit
In the spirit.
Oh, quite. Now, you're back as Doctor Who on the stage after a 15-year gap.
That's right.
Are you glad to be back?
Oh, sure, the money's good.
Do you miss being Doctor Who?
Yes, I do from time to time, yes, but I enjoyed Wurzel Gummidge too.
Yeah, you followed William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton.
Patrick Troughton. Yeah.
So, I mean, how did you decide what kind of a character Doctor Who would be? It was obviously up to you to make him whatever he wanted.
Well, I had no idea, you see, how to play it, because when Sean Sutton said, would you like to play Doctor Who? And I said, yes, how should I play it? And he said, well, it's Jon Pertwee. And I said, who the hell's that? Because I'd never played myself, ever. I'd hidden under a green umbrella all my life. Yeah. And so he said, no, play it as you, and it'll happen, and it did.
What gave you the kind of inspiration for the flamboyance?
The clothes?
Yeah.
Well, that was a bit of luck, really. I wanted to wear something rather severe, like a Nehru suit, and they said no, they thought that was too severe. So, in order to do something for the front cover of the Radio Times, I put on an old velvet smoking jacket and an Inverness cape and a frilly shirt from Mr. Fish, which was very trendy at that time, and stood like that for the front cover. And they said, well, we like this, we'll keep it in. And I said, well, how the hell are we going to explain that away? But in the first story they did, they made me go into a changing room and nick a lot of clothing from various doctors. Some doctor had a hat and some doctor had a cloak, and I picked all these various things, put them in, went outside and leapt into an old motor car, old Vauxhall 3098, and drove off. And that eventually became Bessie, my yellow Ed
I think the program was at its peak, certainly in popularity, while you were doing it. And maybe it got overtaken by technology, by the kind of thing people could see in Star Wars. They probably thought,
Yeah, well, we kept it pretty simple, and of course we kept the threats on Earth when I was there, the majority of the time, anyway.
Yes, you fought off a number of Cybermen in your time.
No, I didn't. I never came across
Daleks? You did a Dalek?
Daleks, yes, I've done a lot of Daleks.
Have you? And then a giant spider got you in the end.
And the spider got me in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, well, not in the end,
No.
but he got me.
Did you do your own stunts?
Yes. Yes, I did, much to the infuriation of Terry Walsh, my stuntman. I did everything that I could apart from falling. If it was riding motorbikes or speedboats or, coming down ladders from helicopters and things, I'd do that because I knew I could do it. But falling would be silly because if I broke something, then everybody would be out of work.
You nearly killed half a crew once, didn't you?
I'm afraid so. Well, Barry Letts, my producer, said, you can drive anything, can't you? And I said, no, not really, not without a bit of practice. And he said, well, there's a hovercraft. Why don't you have a go at that and see if we can get that in the program? So we did. We got it in the program, but Barry never gave me any time to practice. And I kept saying, can I practice now? And he said, not yet, I'll let you know when. And he never told me until he said, right, go. And so I got into this hovercraft, and I had to come up a riverbank on the Severn and go between two cameras and go over a stuntman who was lying as an old tramp. And as he lay back like that, I went over the top of him with the hovercraft. Well, I did this. But unfortunately, there was a very strong wind blowing at the time, and it blew me very much to the port side, and I wiped out the entire camera crew. and they fell. And it was very dangerous, because you've got propellers roaring around, both down there and up there. You see, so it could be very uncomfortable. And so Barry said, can you do it again? And he said, right, everybody over the other side, go round the other camera. And so they all went round the other camera, and I came, and they said, allow for the wind. And I said, yes, and I came down and I allowed for the wind, and there wasn't a wind, and so I wiped up all the other cameras.
Now, you were born into a theatrical family. You had no choice, you had to be an actor.
No, that was it.
I mean, that was what you wanted to do?
Sure, yes.
I mean, did you ever play this old theatre here?
I certainly did, many a time, yes, when it was the Shepherd's Bush Empire. I remember very well that I came out of the stage door one night and I'd gone rather well, and which was difficult in vaudeville. We very often didn't, particularly at Glasgow Empire, where they threw everything at you. But I came out and there was an enormous gentleman from your country, an Irish gentleman. There were a lot of them about Shepherd's Bush in those days. And he was leaning up against the wall and he went, "Oi!" And I said, "What, me?" And he said, "Come over here." He said, "Here," I said, "sign that." And I said, "Well, how could I resist such a charming invitation?" Of course, and so I signed in the autograph and I handed it to him and he went and threw it away. To this day, I have no idea at all. I don't know who he thought I was.
That's a killer. Well, that's a killer.
They're terrible.
Did you ever recover from this?
Never.
Tremendous blow to your ego.
No, it was awful.
You were always getting expelled from reading your life. You continually expelled from school.
Yes, I was. That's a family trait, really. I mean, well, no, not with my brother, Michael. He was very well behaved.
You got expelled from RADA?
Yes. I got thrown out of RADA, I'm afraid, yes. I refused to be a wind. There was a lady who taught Greek dancing and things, and Greek tragedy, and we had to be winds, and I hadn't got a part. All I went was, ooh, and I thought this was terribly boring and very expensive for my poor father to pay for me to be a wind. And so I rebelled and said I wouldn't be a wind.
Didn't Noel Coward speak well of you, though? He saw you in one of
Well, yes, Sir Kenneth Barnes told me that I had absolutely no talent of any sort whatsoever in the theatre. He said, I don't think there's any point in you can continue. And so I was in a play at the end of my particular season, and just before I was about to be expelled, you see, and I was playing two parts, a small part of a man who was murdered in the first act, and I played the detective who found out who murdered me in the last act, with full makeup and moustaches and so on. And at the end of the show, Sir Kenneth Barnes said to Noel Coward, who was the guest of honor, was there anybody that you thought had any particular talent in the company? And he said, yes, very, very good performance by the man who played the man who was murdered in the first act, and I particularly liked the detective who found out who murdered him in the last. So I promptly gave him a kiss, which is a very dangerous thing to do, and...
Did you never look back? Certainly not. Yeah. Now, you had that... because of this brilliance of this mimicry, this gift that you have, and you've invented those voices. I mean,
I can't impersonate people, really. I just pick up the idiosyncrasies of people's voices, and they're all... Well, that was a genuine lady. When I was at school, I was at Sherburn School, and there was a lady who used to serve the tuck, and we used to go and say, one long bun, one short bun, and a cup of tizer, please, Mrs. Thompson. And she, being the polite lady she was, used to say, thank you very much, Mr. Next. And that's how I got the voice.
Yeah, and we recently, of course, had 10 years as Wurzel Gummidge, enormously successful.
Oh, yeah.
Terrific.
Well, I lived a long time down there, see, in Devonshire, in Somerset. And that's where but I was in with Eric Barker in years ago in Waterlog Spa. I played the postman.
That's right.
They wouldn't remember that.
I do, I remember
You
that.
remember. Well, what does it matter what you do? As long as you tear them up. That was it, yeah.
And so when Keith Waterhouse and Willis Hall asked me to do a movie that they'd written, of Wurzel Gummidge, of course I jumped at it, but unfortunately the movie hit the wall. They didn't get the distribution that they wanted or the money. And so I said, well, could you write me a pilot cheap? And they gave me a pilot, bless them, and we sold it to television. BBC turned it down flat, incidentally. They said it was had no future of any sort at all. And I then took it to Thames, because I knew they'd jump at it, having just done Whodunit for them, and they turned it down flat too. So then there was a gentleman called Lewis Rudd at Southern Television, a man of great perspicacity, and he said, I think it's wonderful, and he made it, and within about 5 or 6 weeks we were somewhat of a cult.
Tell me about yourself. Tell me, if I may ask, you have been around a bit. How old are you now?
I'm 70 this year.
Still. Now, you're going to play 10 weeks on stage of Doctor Who.
11.
11?
Yeah.
Well, we wish it well. Where are you opening with that?
We open it in Wimbledon in the about 10 days' time.
And you look
there for 2 weeks.
You look as far away from retiring as you did when I met you, which must have been 20 years ago.
Sure is.
And you look the picture of health.
Thank
We're
you.
all delighted to see you. Well done.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
It must be something in the board billionaire. Well, that's it for another week. Stand away from